Hello and welcome back to another episode of For Azeroth. I am one of your hosts, Manny, aka the True Villain Manny, and I am joined by Sean. Sean, how are you doing today, and how is the World of Warcraft treating you?
I'm doing great, Manny. Warcraft is treating me lovely. It's a beautiful game. I've had a lot of fun with it this weekend. In this exact moment, I'm not doing so hot. My dog just farted. And it smells like she ate another dog's farts. I don't know what. It's just a really bad smell. But this is what I imagine the front of the Wrathgate smelled like after Putricide bombed it.
Oh,
It's intense.
new
Yeah,
strain of plague. Okay.
I need the dragon flights to come and clear out my office.
Okay. All right. Well,
Extras that we call for aid.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you're living through that. Maybe I was aware of it and started the show anyways, but we move forward. We move forward. Um, Honestly, I know this week you've been away, you've been camping and everything. I'm glad to have you back. Lex is away today. She is dealing with some things, but she'll be back next week. This was actually a fairly slow week, not just for us, but also for the World of Warcraft. So this will be probably a shorter show, but I also want to take the opportunity to kind of go a little bit more in depth with stuff since we're not sharing the mic as much.
Mm. Yeah, I'm down for it. It was a quiet week. It was like the For Azeroth vacation week because you took the week off. I was away camping for the week or for 4 days, and Lex has been off for the week. And then Blizzard was like, "Hey, the For Azeroth gang isn't around. Let's pump the brakes on this news." And that was nice of them. They even stopped the shaman changes they were going to give us, so that was cool too.
Oh, we'll get to the shaman changes. That may have been work that they kind of half did and then ran out the door before anybody noticed. But we noticed.
They checked the BFA devs and said, "Hey, can we copy your homework?"
Oh no! Oh
Yeah.
no!
Sorry, shamans.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's good for some shamans. Will be
Resto
good for
shamans,
some shamans.
yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it. Resto shamans are looking juicy. Everybody's going to be wet this season.
We will see. We will see. And I think we're the great combo to play it because I play Elemental, I play Enhancement. Have not played Resto in a while, but you've been playing Resto earlier this expansion, so you've got some recent time with Resto as well. That said, before we get into that, we have some late breaking news. Just prior to the show going live this evening, we had is it Chimes? The developer come to the forums and deliver some news about what kind of stuff where you can expect for preseason and in season 1 with open world content. And this was about the caches that we get from, in Dragonflight. That was the stuff that we got from the Trial of Elements or the Trial of the Flood. In the War Within, for the initial pre-patch and season 1, we're going to have 6 different events going, which is a lot. And I think
that's on par with what we had at the start of Dragonflight, isn't it? We had Soup, we had the Siege of Dragonbane Keep, we had the Hunts. Is that it? Did we only have 3?
No. We also had the 2 trials: Trial of Elements, Trial of Flood.
Yeah,
so make it 5. So this is 6.
Close.
Yeah. I guess that's fairly close. So you know what it is that I've been used to season 3, season 2, where it was just the same one event over and over again. Maybe spread those out a bit, guys. I don't know.
We'll see.
But we got 6 events, including one that people are saying is really good a play. But we're not going to talk about exactly what's going on with those events. We're going to be talking about the rewards that you get from those events, because this was something that happened at the beginning of Dragonflight. People would be doing these events on farm. They would be chasing after whenever the Trial of the Flood would come up, or whenever the Trial of the Elements would come up. They would be going out to Dragonbane Keep to do that thing. And like we were saying a little bit before the show, this was something that we enjoyed. But as soon as season 1 started, they sort of fell off. Now they've made some changes. So the way that this works is that of the 6, the first 2 that you complete will drop loot, guaranteed. A random piece of loot that's good for the character that you earned it on.
Or a warband piece. Right.
Separate from warband piece. This is specifically to loot that's good for that character. Warband pieces they didn't talk about in this.
Oh, I thought warband pieces could drop in any content. Maybe I'm wrong.
They could, but it could be like something extra on top. But this is specific. But this is like when they say the 2 pieces of loot. This is like not warband pieces. This is, as we would see today, pieces that are good for you, that are of your correct armor type and for your specialization.
Okay, cool.
So then the first 2 drop that. In the preseason, it's going to be adventurer gear, which is the lowest rung of the ladder. You've got, of course, adventure, veteran, champion, hero, and then myth track. In season 1, that's going to be upgraded so that the first 2 pieces, instead of giving adventure, are going to give you veteran gear. And then also they said that the first 4 cache of the 6 will give you 100 of these key fragments, which you can combine to make your keys that you'll need for your delves in order to get those extra rewards from the delves. Now, the philosophy that they gave behind this is that they basically just want to empower players to sort of do what they want to do, not necessarily what they feel they have to do. And they gave a bit of a blog about that, but I just want to give the gist of that. Now, what's your opinion on, like, basically this?
Positive change, I think. I am all for, and I made a tweet this week that I regret making. I think I stand by the idea behind why I made the tweet, but I regret making it because I saw a rebuttal, not to my tweet directly, but to some other tweets about the same topic. And the rebuttal made me think, you know what? I'm not coming at this from the right mentality. But I think this is, I don't know why any of that came up. This is a positive change. I am all for people being able to engage with the game in the way that is best for them and not requiring you to do content you don't enjoy is awesome. You need to do 4 of these to maximize your week. So if there's only 3 that you like, well, maybe there's 1 you're not getting done or 1 you're doing that you don't enjoy to maximize. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's a good change. I think it's good that it's dropping veteran gear pre-season so that it's not like a requirement that everybody has to do this stuff. Although it's a lot of fun, and in pre-season, really, what else is there to do? Yeah, and then I like that once season 1 starts, it gives outdoor world players an opportunity to get that adventurer gear to help them set themselves up for success. Yeah, big change, but a positive change.
Yeah. So, sorry, slight correction. You said veteran preseason when it's actually adventure preseason. I mean,
sorry.
most likely.
Yeah,
most likely just slip of tongue.
Flip those, yeah.
Yeah. I think the part that I like best about this is that you get the 4 pieces that the 4 fragments of 100 fragments each that let you get your delve gear. That to me will keep these things relevant long after the direct gear that you get from them becomes irrelevant. Like for me, who pushes through heroic, gets into mythic. Once I hit mythic, I am pretty much sure I'm not going to care about delves per se because they only go to the hero track. But up until that point, I'm going to definitely want to get through the delves, and that means I'm going to want to do the events for a lot longer than I did in Dragonflight, and I like that. For people that don't touch the mythic level, these are going to be relevant all the way through. In fact, it might become a replacement for Mythic Plus for people who really don't want to do Mythic Plus, and I think that's again, empowering people. Like, I love Mythic Plus, so I'm like, Mythic Plus is going
I
to
mean,
be the
like,
thing.
you mean delves will be a replacement?
Delves can be a replacement to sort of
Gotcha.
support the
And
gear.
getting your key fragments from the outdoor world contents.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm with you.
Right. The the one thing that I didn't mention that I should mention is that the keys and the key fragments and the gear that you get is calculated when you are rewarded the chest, not when you open the chest. And I think that is a very intelligent change. For people who are looking at this and being like, yeah, no, that doesn't seem to make any difference. Yes, it does. It is the thing that caused people in Legion to stockpile a bunch of chests and then open them each patch to get the legendary. Same thing with this, where you would say, okay, I'm going to do 6 this week, and then the week before the season 1 begins, I only open 2 of them, and then in season 1, I open the other 4 to get my veteran instead of the adventurer, right? So like little mini games where the unintuitive way becomes the best way gets shut down by that change.
Yeah, that's a good call. Does that say that in this build? I don't even remember seeing that.
It is the
Oh, it does. Yeah, the contents of the cache are determined when you get the cache awarded to you, not when you open it.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I generally think that this is a pretty good a good idea, and it helps people at all levels. Yeah.
yeah, I'm all for it. They mention how it's philosophically slightly different from Dragonflight, where Dragonflight would ask you to do specific quests that you had to do to get those items, and they're saying like, hey, we want people to do the content that they enjoy. I'm all for Blizzard trying to make the game better for everyone. So this is a great change. Really happy with it.
Yeah. I do think that the one sad part about it, and this is something that we talked about before the show as well, is that first week or so before the season begins, when everybody is just swarming like locusts, you had said, from like event to event, and the world just feels so alive. This kind of lessens that, because there are people who are going to say those 2 are the ones that I hate, and maybe the community as a whole says forget those 2, and then those just become dead. Like there's no reason to do them. This is definitely going to be something that I feel like the min-max ideology is going to degrade some of it. But that just means everybody's going to be concentrated in the other 4. So like, hey, soup's on for all of those people who loved soup.
Yeah. The only thing I would like to see different with the world events in the War Within, I would like the timer rotations to be shorter. Soup was like on a 2.5 hour rotation. This Dragonbane Keep was on an 1.5 hour rotation, I think. Hunts were just cyclical. They just kept going, whatever. So that was great. I think the hunts is the best way to do it. But if you're set events at set locations, I think 30 minutes, especially because Dragonbane Keep, it was on an 1.5 hour. I'm pretty sure it was an 1.5 hour rotation. If it wasn't an 1.5 hours, it was an hour. But I think I'm almost positive it was 90 minutes. But because there were so many people swarming to do it, it would start and then it will be done 7 minutes later. And then there's just like this huge gap where you're waiting. And if you're, it doesn't affect me. I'm what's the phrase? Terminally online. So I'm going to do them. I'm going to wake up and do them first thing in the morning, and I'm going to do them on all my alts. It's not going to matter. I'm going to hit them as they come up. But there are people who are going to come home from work and they're going to log in and they're going to have to choose, do I go to this event or that event? And I might miss the next one because I don't have time for it. Especially if there's 6 different ones. A faster rotation, I think, would be good. Put them all up every 30 minutes.
I mean, because the system, you only have to do 4 of them, and it doesn't matter which ones you do, I think you could actually go the opposite way. Where as long as some of them are up,
to do ones they don't like, right?
Yeah.
So if you're saying you only have to do 2, well, these are the 2 that are up while you're here. It sucks if you don't like them. Those are your ones.
But if you have like,
if
you have, let's say, 3 of them up at a time, because there's no way you're going to complete 4 of them before the next 3. Sorry, 3 of them before the next 3 show up. Maybe that's good enough.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I would just, if it was me, I would want all 6 of them on a 30-minute rotation, so I could get all 6 of them done in an hour and a half if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like looking at a full day event, right? If they're all up, if they're staggered every hour and a half, and this one comes up for then the next one starts 30 minutes later, the next one starts 30 minutes later, then you definitely run into situations where players are going to have to do ones they don't want to do or ones that aren't as fun when they want to do other ones because of their time restrictions and play time.
Yeah.
I definitely think more frequent is better. But like I said, that doesn't affect me. Maybe that doesn't affect people out there in real world normies. So I don't know. Maybe it does. Let us know, normies. Sound off in the chat.
Yeah.
Let us know if that affects you. I guess if you're listening to a Warcraft podcast, you're probably not a normie either. So
I mean, there's definitely levels of players who listen to the podcast. I would say that being conscious of people's playtime, because there will be people who are only able to play like for set periods and not every day each week and so forth. So yeah, being careful about that to allow for it, but also making sure that there isn't one that is objectively or just like so greatly worse than the others that it becomes the one that everybody's avoiding.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Keep
don't
them all
need
in line with each other.
a week 1, season 1 soup. We need something better. No offense, soup fans, but that first week was rough.
I don't know. I like soup was just, it was an event. The entire guild would, because it was rare, like one person in the guild would sound off and we would just bring everybody there. And it would be like summoning stones to get people ready. It was a thing. I loved it. I love my guild for that. But yeah, I hope that this goes well. I hope that the events are a lot of fun. And like you said, I hope that we can all get to them.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on from that, though.
Moving on. Well, before we move on, Manny, I would like to give a special thanks to our patrons, if that's okay with you. Is that okay with you?
That's okay with me.
You're good with it? Okay. I see that you put it here in the show notes, so I assumed, and this is the exact spot you put it. You said, Sean, don't make a big deal about this. Just read the line. And I hope what I'm doing now isn't making a big deal, but I'm going to read the line now. I want to give a special thanks to our patrons. For Azeroth will always be free. But if you enjoy the content we produce, please consider pledging to our Patreon at patreon.com/Faz. You get everything early, I think. I don't know if you actually do. Manny runs this. But you get stuff early, and there's some fun behind the scenes stuff, I hope. If not, Manny, we need to put some fun behind the scenes stuff. Anything else, chat, you want me to tell Manny that we have in the Patreon that may or may not be there yet?
Setting me up for failure.
Access to Manny's house on the Patreon.
That will never be a thing moving forward.
Yeah. One dinner date with Sean.
There we go.
You gotta come to me.
He's not a date either.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's it. It says, Sean, don't make wild promises we don't. Okay. All right.
All right. Well,
moving
on from that, we'll go with Epidemi. Free cookies.
Free cookies
at Sean's
place. Patreon.
One per patron.
Yeah. You join our Patreon, you give us your address, I'll mail you some cookies. You're welcome. They're maple cookies. They're not homemade. That's not, for legal reasons, that's a joke.
That is a joke. Oh, okay. Moving on, let's talk about something near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
This is the Shaman changes, because
Can I set this up? Yeah, let me set this one up.
We'll pass this over to you. Go ahead.
Let me set this up. So last week, as everybody knows, Manny's a Shaman main. A lot of my friends are Shaman mains. I have a lot of Shaman people in my circle. Last week, we knew Blizzard came out. They said, hey, listen, we hear you. We know, we understand your problems. You've got countless forum posts. We've read them. We have been in the kitchen cooking. We've been busy. We came on this show and we did a little hype train. We did a little hype fest. We huffed some copium. Manny got down with it and he was like, we're going to get some of these positive changes that I'm happy about. Now, Manny, I was away. I was camping when these changes came out, so I haven't actually had a chance to read them. All I know is a lot of my Shaman friends looking at different tunes. How was the rework?
Okay. So I want to say that there are two parts to this.
Mhm.
There is what they said and what happened. And those need to be separated.
Mhm.
In terms of what they said, I think they hit the nail on the head. They were cooking. They were straight up cooking here. They mentioned about how Resto Shaman cooldowns have fallen behind and that they wanted to give more oomph to stuff. They mentioned about the diversity and the struggles that Elemental was having and how they were going to address that. They mentioned how enhancement is in a pretty good spot, so they just want to be light about it. They don't want to mess with it too much. And on all of those points, I agree. They even talked about, hey, they're going to throw in a full-on, not a party-wide, but raid-wide buff. And so now, instead of having Whingefury Totem, that is just for Enhancement Shaman, that is just in the party, we now have a raid-wide buff, Sky Fury, that does everything Whingefury did, that extra attack chance, but also gives an extra 2% mastery. Now, 2% mastery doesn't feel like that much, but it's on top of the Whingefury, which, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinion, was enough of a reason to bring an Enhancement Shaman for your melee group. And so now, you can bring any Shaman, and it doesn't even have to be in the group. And it's giving mastery to everybody in the raid, which is great for some, not so good for others. But your melee, all of your melee, regardless of what group they're in, gets the Whingefury buff. So really
Including
good.
your tanks.
Including your tanks. And some tanks get so much benefit because of the resources from the extra attack that, yes.
It's not an insignificant amount. So obviously this is changing more within. But current tuning, if I play arms, I get about 9,800 DPS from Whingefury group. If I'm prot, I get 10.2k. So I get more damage gain as a prot warrior than I do as an arms warrior from a Whingefury totem. And now and obviously in prog, you're almost never going to put your tanks in there. You're going to have melee DPS that are getting a better benefit from it usually. But now it doesn't matter. We're getting it. So that's huge.
Yeah. And hey, healers getting a mastery buff for those healers that care about their mastery. Yeah. I think Resto Druid would love that in 5-man content, not so much in raids, but whatever. It's so good.
There are some melee that are going to be happy. Like right now, Ret Paladin gains no benefit from Whingefury, but they're going to be happy about the mastery buff. So it's and I don't imagine they're going to change them not getting benefit from Whingefury as long as they're running Crusader Strikes. But they get something from the buff. And if Crusader Strikes for whatever reason ends up not being the play, now they're double dipping. They're getting that mastery and Whingefury. It's a good change. If that could have been the only change, and I think a lot of people would have been happy if they had just come out and said, hey, Whingefury is now Sky Fury, everybody does this. And I think some people would have still been really sad. But I think a lot of people would have been like, all right, cool. I can play Elemental now instead of being forced to play Enhance because I hate Enhance and I love Elemental.
Yeah. But they didn't stop there.
They did not stop there. That was not it.
No,
that was not the only
note. They made a lot of changes to the class tree that opened it wide open. So we've got a bunch of the nodes that got reduced to 1-point nodes instead of 2-point nodes. We had a lot of relatively bad talents that were removed and replaced with good talents. Sean, let me tell you, the number one complaint of Shaman has been, hey, we don't have enough defensives. We got a new defensive in the class tree. Arms up, yes. This is glorious. This is glorious.
It's a win.
It's a win. And
Whingefury's raid wide. You got a new defensive? We can stop there. We can stop there, and it's a positive change.
But we didn't stop there because
there's more.
It's a totem, which means that Shamans can reset its cooldown. So whereas before it'd be like, oh, here's a 2-minute cooldown.
Is it a 2-minute cooldown?
A 2-minute cooldown base.
Oh, nice.
You can slightly reduce it to like a 1.9 minute cooldown. That's meh, right?
That's okay. It's under the 3 minute mark for, was it Totemic Recall? Is that what it
For
is?
Totemic Recall. So you can reset it and get it right back. It's the tuning number is whatever. It's like a 15% DR plus like
Sure.
an additional refreshing shield, right? But in terms of the dungeon and raid damage, which a lot of it seems kind of rot damage and like consistent damage coming out, it's really effective that way. And so great to have this new defensive, but it's not the only defensive. We got 2 other defensives, but these ones are a lot less universally applied and more finicky. One is that healing spring totem or cloudburst totem, when they heal you, you get a DR on any fire, frost, or nature damage that you take.
Okay.
Okay. So it's narrow because it's particular schools. But on a cloudburst totem that can heal an entire raid for a certain amount on those particular fights, you add an additional DR on top of that. That's amazing.
Does everybody who's been healed by it get the DR?
Yes.
Oh.
So for a typical healing tide, not healing tide, but healing spring totem, right? It's gonna like randomly heal some people, and they'll get a bit of DR, but that might help in the damage that they're taking afterwards. It's good. In Cloudburst, it's fantastic. It makes Cloudburst almost an additional cooldown in that way when it's applicable. So I think that that's a win. And I know the other one is a PvP talent that just got switched in. It's basically that when you interrupt a particular spell, you get a damage reduction on that spell school from all damage you take from that same spell school. But in Mythic Plus, when you're dealing with a bunch of packs and you interrupt one and the rest of them go off, you're still getting a DR on that.
And you're going to need it because the mobs in these dungeons cast a ton. They're basically chain casting. They're like machine gun casters. It's a little insane. So good for you, shamans. You're going to get some use out of that one.
We are. Yeah. Like it's a weird one where it wouldn't work I think it wouldn't work as well in the Dragonflight way, but it works well in the War Within. And because the buff can stack and last 18 seconds, you can actually have a 6-second overlap if you interrupt something at the 12-second mark when your wind shear comes off cooldown.
Does it stack like Ironford? The first one drops off at its own time.
Yes.
Cool. That's good.
You can't constantly just keep refreshing the duration, but it'll
no, that's good. That's good,
stacks.
Especially with the short kick you have. And like I said, these mobs they're ABS or ABC mobs. They're always B casting. So that's a huge one.
Yeah.
I love it. This is great.
I'm talking about all the wins. I want to make sure that I'm talking about the wins.
Spirit Link Totem got an additional damage reduction added to it.
Not just that.
It was 10. Go ahead.
Not just that, but it actually has the Sprouting Springs Azerite power from BFA, which is about a second after it goes off, it actually heals. And that's very important because the first second it redistributes the life and then it heals everybody. So it's solid raid cooldown with that. And it's an option. So in times when that wouldn't make any difference, you can just put the talent point somewhere else.
Yeah, I know my Resto Shaman friends or my healer friends. I have like friends that are like class agnostic healers. They're pretty excited about the Shaman changes for Resto Shaman. And as a semi-casual Resto Shaman healer, like the +10 key range to heroic rating, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be nice. I don't really dabble with any other healers. I think that's going to be good. Manny, I don't understand. These changes, this sounds like shamans across the board should be celebrating. What else you got?
Well, okay. There's more good stuff, but like let's go to the other side of the coin, because the other side of the coin was with the implementation. And
so this is like Blizzard said, "Hey, here's what we want to do. and you're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then they showed you some of it, and it was good. And then it turns out, once you let them move in, you found out who they really were.
It,
Got
the
it.
way that I want to, maybe this is copium. Not all of it's copium. The problem is that they put out this build, and unfortunately, this build is a job half done, and it has absolutely screwed up some things and damaged other parts. So Elemental got a bunch of new cooldowns. Well, not cooldowns, but a bunch of new talents that are really great. Things that make Elemental actually have more to do with its elementals. Really awesome. They got a third Elemental now, which is really cool. So we've got Fire Elemental, we've got Rocky, our Earth Elemental, and now we've got and of course we had the Storm Elemental, which you could switch between Fire Elemental, but now we've got a Thunder Elemental, and you can have a Thunder, Fire, and Earth Elemental, or the Storm Elemental instead of Fire Elemental, all up at the same time doing crazy stuff. You are like quasi warlockish with your army of elementals here, because once the elementals die, they replace themselves with lesser elementals that will keep fighting in their stead for a little bit. It's cool, except half the stuff doesn't work. There was supposed to be the ability to keep your elementals going for a little bit longer, doesn't work. There is the lesser elementals that I talked about, doesn't work. There is a number of hooks that just aren't there yet, but like on paper, it looks great. And I think elementals, when they look at that, and when I'm looking at the issues that they're having, it's all stuff that they're working towards, and I think it's gonna be good. But like right now, whatever you're seeing on elemental performance is severely less than what they will be doing. And unfortunately, we had raid testing this week, and so elementals may have felt a little bit sad about how they were doing, because it just wasn't what they're supposed to be doing.
It was broke. Okay.
But they were not the real victims.
No, overall, and I do want to say that overall, I mean, obviously I'm being a little bit facetious with my leading of the questions here. It's for entertainment value, folks. This is a podcast. So overall, I have heard mostly very positive from the Resto Shaman side of things. A lot of my friends very, very excited about Resto Shaman, the way it looks. And mostly positive things about Elemental. It's really, I guess it's just what we're about to talk about, which is Manny's main and his true love, Enhancement Shaman, that they wanted to approach with a light touch.
Yeah. And like I said, the stuff that they wrote was good. Enhancement at the beginning of Dragonflight, and in fact, through Dragonflight, has been in a really solid position. So it seems very hard for them to screw it up. But unfortunately, as it stands right now, they have. And when they went in to address things, they really forgot the lube this time. And so I'm just like, I'm in a position where I know that they know what the issues are because they have been reported. And I know that they addressed the problem areas, but I don't know what they did when they went in there, but man, it hurts. So to go through just things overly, when they did the adjustments to the class tree,
right?
They changed pathing. They gave a bunch of new utilities and stuff, but then they moved things into positions where it helps your casters, but it hurts the melee spec. An example is the Spirit Walker's Grace, which this is a wonderful ability that lets you cast while moving. It doesn't disrupt your cast.
We love this.
Love
Great
it.
talent.
Enhancement Shaman has no use for it.
Yeah, very little value there. Very little value for
Like,
enhancement shaman.
for enhancement shaman, it amounts to a 20% sprint
Mhm.
if you talent into that.
Okay.
Which we wouldn't care about.
Do you
But
cast anything? Is there anything at all you cast?
no. The
Yeah.
entire
Okay.
point of Maelstrom Weapon is to make our cast instant. Every cast
Right.
instant.
Well, I guess you could use it if you had to like healing tide yourself or
Hard
healing
cast
wave
a healing
yourself.
wave? Well, here's the issue with that. Or healing surge. Here's the
Healing
issue with a
surge, that's
hard
the one.
cast healing surge. Enhancement spell power
Mhm.
is far lower than the spell power of Resto and Elemental because you're supposed to use your
Yeah, because you're a
Maelstrom
melee
weapon
class,
stacks.
Manny. Because you're a fucking melee
No,
class.
because you're supposed to use your Maelstrom weapon stacks to increase the power. So when we have stacks of Maelstrom, it increases the damage or healing by 20% per stack. So if you do a 0 stack, you're doing 1/5 of the heal you should be doing.
Right.
So
Well,
why
then
would I
just
be?
don't take Walker's Grace, Manny. There, problem solved. Look, I
Yeah,
fixed it
that's
for you.
great. Except that
Fixed
it
it.
passed directly into
Oh.
the ability that we do want,
Oh no.
which is Ancestral Guidance.
No, they wouldn't do that.
Yes, and it's the only way
So,
into Ancestral Guidance.
but they could just flip those, right?
You would hope, but that's not what it is right now.
Yeah.
There is
I
also,
have to believe that that will get flipped.
but then they would also need to move the talent that comes off of Spirit Walker's Grace, which modifies Spirit Walker's Grace. So they'd have to move that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You might be thinking, okay, well, that's a little thing they could switch around. Then you would look at
Well,
our
enhanced shamans don't need ancestral guidance because you're not going to raids anymore because we're bringing a resto shaman for Whingefury. So
the trolling. I'm gonna just move past that. Let's talk. Let's talk about
okay.
um
Okay.
the fact that, hey, we just talked about that interrupt, where like, hey, if you do an interrupt and you have the DR, that's great. So where would you expect that modification of wind shear to be?
Right off of Windshare.
Yeah, or at least remotely near it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect it to be like almost right off of Windshare.
Yeah, except that you would need to spend no less than 5 talent nodes to get across the tree to get to Seasoned Wind from Windshear.
It's not in the path from other things you would normally take.
It not related, and you would be able to build that way, but if you're going down one side of the tree to get your wind shear and the other side of the tree to get the thing that augments wind shear, you're spending a lot
But
of
I
points
guess
that
my
you
question
wouldn't want
is,
to do.
my question is, ignoring the wind shear modification, are you building down that side of the tree anyway?
Yes, but not for the reasons you think, which is, hey, good talents, great here, and good talents here, but because the tree requires you to build so wide that you are all over the place anyways, which means you're not getting to your capstones, which Shaman didn't care about before because Shaman capstones sucked. But that defensive totem that I talked about, yeah, that's a capstone.
No.
Right? The ability to
And totemic
reset that
recall
is a
totemic recall a
capstone.
capstone? Yeah.
Is a capstone. And if you happen to want the ancestral guidance, that is one shy of a capstone.
Ancestral guidance is that far down?
It is.
Did they increase it to, because it's not even that strong of a heal?
It got nerfed because it is that strong of a heal in terms of burst healing.
But the nerfed version of it isn't as good as it was pre-nerf.
Yeah,
it's like Nature's Valley also got nerfed there, the druid one.
Yeah. So unfortunately,
Hold on, before we get angry comments, I know it's called Nature's Vigil. I like to say Nature's Valley because it reminds me of the granola bars here in Canada.
Yes.
So please don't send us angry hate mail. I realize the name of the ability.
You know, those are on sale at the grocery store. Now that you mention,
Yeah, they are at Costco too. Costco sells like giant boxes of 32 of them. They're amazing. Anyway,
I'm not going to go into shrinkflation, but yeah. Anyways, so yeah, the tree just has a lot of issues where you're going all over the place. Now that capstones are actually valuable, the problem of us being so wide on talents is worse for us because our capstones actually mean something. We already had the issue of piano keys where it's like, oh, in order to play this spec, I need 30, 40 keybinds. They removed some choice nodes and split them apart, but taking both requires double the amount of keybinds. So we can now Thundershock on somebody else, which was a PvP talent before, but that now just coming to the tree. I think it's amazing for Elemental and Resto. They don't need to go into melee to do the Thundershock. They could just Thundershock the tank and knock everything into the air without getting into melee. It's a beautiful thing, going back to the positive side.
Nice at focus macro or at player one macro.
Yep. Lightning Lasso
That's great.
can now be taken independently of that. And Lightning Lasso is a fantastic stun where it just incapacitates a enemy while you're channeling, dealing damage, and it doesn't break under damage. But your whoever's casting it is unable to do any other moves. Really bad if your entire builder spender requires you to melee and you're now shut down while you're channeling. And yeah, they're big because we're talking about shamans not being defensive. And one of our defensives has been Nature's Guardian, where when we dip below a certain percentage of health, we immediately heal up to a certain percentage of health. Except that is now locked behind a bunch of talents that are incredibly narrow in use. Something like Tremor Totem, where it's like, when it's good, it's good. When it's not, why are you taking it?
Right.
And so the tree is just in a worse place where we've got goodies, but they're now jumbled up and weird.
Okay. But they can change that, and we've seen trying to. Like I said, I have a lot of shaman friends. I'm going to try and talk them off a ledge here. We have seen Blizzard put out a build, Mythic Plus, for example, and have it come back with like big negative emotions from the community, and then in a 2-week span turn that around and say, okay, we hear you, we'll make some adjustments, we'll fix this. If the tree is as poorly designed as everybody has told me that it is, not just Manny, this is not a Manny only complaint. Surely it's something that they're going to look at and address. Has there been any sort of like feedback from the shaman dev? Who is the shaman dev? Do you guys know?
Well, one, I want to dispel that there is no shaman dev. They're like the way that and the way that they work on it is that people come together, they bounce off the ideas, and they put it together. So, which might be part of the reason that you don't see every class get updates at once. It's their mind is on something else, and those people go to other groups and work together on that. Shaman just seems to be one of the last ones getting hit right now, but it's very scary because we are so close to the pre-release, and we're running out of time.
Yeah, PTR became a release candidate today.
Yep. And to the credit of them listening to feedback, one of the changes that they made was to cut Elemental Blast at the knees. 25% nerf that came with this. One of the few enhancement changes.
That's a very powerful spell. I'm glad they cut that. That is tearing things up right now in Season 4.
I need a new co-host. Please send your applications
Manny, I'm setting you up for these. This is a great setup. This is you're saying, yeah, Sean. Here's why it's doing so well. This was brilliant. That was podcasting gold.
No,
I will not be slandered, sir.
Because it's not even season 4 that it's doing so well. It's like
beautiful tee up.
It's doing well in testing, raid testing, in Mythic Plus testing, in the War Within. But it's not because of the spell itself, it's because of our 4-piece. Our 4-piece is allowing us to stack how many wolves, and instead of having maybe 3 or so wolves up at a single time, we have people having 8 to 12 wolves up at the single time. And for every wolf, you are increasing the damage of that spell by 20%. So a difference of 5 to...
So cap wolves.
Cap wolves, or maybe reduce that tier set bonus, or change that tier set bonus. Right? But, yeah, like the difference between 3 and 8 or higher is 100% damage. Right? That's why it's performing so
right.
well. Well, on the PTR patch, they removed that nerf, 25% damage right back into the spell, because it wasn't that bad. And it was the 4-set bonus that was causing the issue. Now
I'm back.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, the last thing that's an issue is, of course, like, obviously, they gave us the Whingefury Totem, not there. People were not taking Whingefury Totem in Mythic Plus because it wasn't worth the point. I don't care if I was running with like a full melee group, which wasn't the case. It wasn't worth the point. Now, we've lost that, so we got that point to put towards other stuff. Except they took Flurry from the class tree and put it into the spec tree. Little behind the scenes, Flurry was bugged for most of Dragonflight. It sped up the amount of attacks that we would get for the next 3. The speed of the attacks for the next 3 attacks, but would conversely weaken those 3 attacks. So it wasn't really actually worth it. They fixed it, but now they put it in the spec tree where it's not worth it still. So it's baffling. It just feels like everything that was good also came with something that was bad, and then there's just been more bad than good, to the point where shamans this week or enhancement shamans this week are in a worse position in terms of point economy, build diversity, the ability to actually do damage versus where we were before this. And of course, it's beta. This stuff happens all the time. But for it to be a systemic issue in the actual talents and abilities and not just a numbers thing is just baffling. And that's the last one that I want to say is stuff that, like, hey, they really need to address. But, John, the fact that this build went out, they disabled Whingefury Totem, but forgot to change Totemic from its dependency on Whingefury Totem. So Totemic is just disabled for all intents and purposes in the War Within beta is mind-boggling to me, which is why I derisively say it was a holiday weekend, they were getting out the door, and some people forgot to cross some T's on this.
You think... I don't think there's any question, but you think we're going to see some addressing of this in this week's build?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we're going to hold off. We're not full doomer. I know it seems grim, folks, but the dawn of the 5th day, look to the east, and you will see somebody ride in with some shaman changes that are great. I'm going to say Kyvax. I know he's not the shaman person, but he seems like the good news bearer. So
I feel like they need to share it. You know, Kyvax delivers some good news. Linksy deliver some good news. Just spread it around. Kyvex doesn't always need to be writing in.
Kyvex brought us the Mythic Plus changes, so he's forever on my Christmas card list. He's getting cookies sent.
Okay. I think that I do want to say, because we've been on. I said the good stuff to begin with, said the bad stuff here, but I do want to say all of the changes that I had asked for last episode, where you're like, hey, if they could change one thing, or three things, what would I like them to change? I think that in what they were addressing, they pretty much addressed all of those, and so they are aware of the Shaman issues. It's just that this first implementation, and I don't even want to call it a first implementation, this first half of their implementation didn't hit the mark. And so my expectation is that they will come back in after holiday long weekend. They're going to fix this all up, and we're going to go into the War Within with a much better position.
I love it. I feel good about it. I'm hopeful. I'm excited. There's probably patch notes out right now as we're recording this, so maybe we've already missed, everybody who's listening to this show on Tuesday is saying like, hey, they fixed all this stuff already. They already changed it, you two goobers. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm positive, man. Overall, I think War Within is going to be a great expansion. I have a lot of hope. A lot of the classes right now, most of the classes right now are in a decent spot. And Blizzard has been doing an excellent job of listening to feedback and addressing it as quickly as they can and letting us know they're going to address it. So Resto Shamans and celebrate, Elemental Shamans like semi-celebrate. I guess anybody who was an Elemental Shaman that was forced into Enhance over the last 3 tiers, you can celebrate because now you don't have to, you can play Elemental. And Enhancement Shamans, look to the west. Come on, baby. I believe. Just hold the line. Helm's Deep must not fall.
And for anybody who was looking at Totemic, it'll be back. It's been absent for a week.
Yeah, they have to bring that back.
Oh, you know what? The problem is that they didn't address anything on the hero talent level, and Totemic is a problem. So even when they bring it back, I'm hoping they bring it back.
Well, they fixed it.
No,
they fixed it. It's not a problem anymore. What problems? Do you log into beta right now and tell me what problems you have with Totemic?
It doesn't work. It literally doesn't work.
No problems. They fixed it. I just caught that fly. Did you see me catch that fly midair? Anyway,
make sure it's a clip.
Yeah, I will. Manny, we got a question. We got a viewer question in the Discord. If you're not in the For Azeroth Discord, you should join it. We hang out in there. We do a little shit posting. We gab. We talk it up. It's a great spot. But come on over. It's bit.ly. Do you have to bleep out the word shit?
I mean,
you can leave that in. You can leave it in.
I've been following how many swears you do in an episode, and I leave 3. You have hit your limit now.
We're at 3, so no more.
No more. Don't make me work.
No more. Deal. I got it. I know. I got you, boo-boo. Don't worry. Come on over bit.ly/Faz Discord. It's a good spot. We're getting a lot of good feedback, a lot of back and forth from the episodes. It's nice because this should be a discussion with the community and not just between the 3 of us. But we got a question from Goblin Graphics, longtime questioner. And he says, or they say, with the customization of mount systems started in Dragonflight and expanded in the War Within, should you be able to find dragon customizations in new expansions, or should those stay just in Dragonflight content? Manny, I don't really care. I don't love a lot of the dragon mounts that we have to ride. And once I can fly my armored snowy griffin again, that'll be the mount I'm on. What do you think? Do you think we should be able to find Dragonflight customizations or dragon riding customizations in other content other than Dragonflight?
Honestly, I think that it was such a thematic thing for the expansion that I would want them to sort of move on in general. I am an avid mount collector. I have over 900 mounts. I really love going through that. I don't really care about customizations because they're not another notch in that mount collection. And so it's a subclass, and they put out so many all at once that for me, it just felt like just too many to go for. So I sort of dropped them. I was just like, no, if I chase after that, it's going to be too much. And I also had a sort of sub quest this expansion to see if I could go the expansion without doing any required dragon riding. So I never did any of the dragon riding events that were in Northrend, Kalimdor, all of those. Never did any of them. Didn't do any dragon racing world quests up until season 4, when the Tyven mount required that you did them. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me see and try that. And I did it because I wanted to see if Blizzard was serious about, hey, we want things to be optional. And for the most part, dragon riding, which seems like such a tentpole of this expansion, was optional. There was one dungeon that was this season and in season 1 that required a bit of dragon riding to get around. No coup defensive.
You just use the term a bit very loosely there.
No, because you could actually ride
Not if you
with
wanted
a friend.
to time a key, you couldn't.
You ride with a friend?
No, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking because there's flight paths. There's actual flight paths to each of the boss zones.
Oh god, no, not if you want to time a key. Yeah. But I mean, like you could ride with a friend, which I felt was a nice concession. The other one that was mandatory, which you couldn't ride with a friend, was actually the penultimate boss in Emirdrasil, which required you to dragon ride from platform to platform if you wanted to get through Sage Swift or Swift. Yeah.
Tendril Sage Swift,
Yeah.
So you did have to have all of the dragon flying glyphs to do that fight on Mythic successfully, but other than that, it was. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I'm not a big fan of Zoomer Flight. I definitely prefer Boomer Flight. So I can't wait to get through my quests in Dornagal and the rest of the War Within so I can go back to doing it.
Okay. I mean, I did it as a little experiment for myself, but I enjoy the now what's called skywriting. So I'm glad to be going into expansion where I'm going to be doing skywriting from the top. But yeah, so like the customizations, I think the dragon riding customizations should stay in Dragonflight, especially as we get further into other expansions, and maybe Dragonflight doesn't become the one that people go to at the beginning, in which case you don't have the base set of the dragons to get the customizations for. So I'd want them to be whatever's relevant for that. So in the War Within, we have the flying machine that you get through delves, and that's the thing that gets customized. And I like that that's limited to a specific activity. But I think that they're going to need to go further. We have a bunch of different holidays that offer manuscripts for customizations. Those need to be changed over as we get into the next expansion. I don't want to be earning something for last expansion's thing in this expansion or 3 expansions from now and that sort of thing. Which I guess Blizzard kind of just set themselves up for a yearly refresh, and I like that as well. So keep it something current, but refresh it every expansion. And then put the old stuff on the vendor so people can get that if they want.
Yeah, I'm big vendor fan. Let's vendor everything. I know that's a separate topic, and I know I don't mean that. Yeah.
I just think that in terms of customization, though, they need to keep it limited. I think it should be a small set of mounts that have customization that you chase after. Because if it is every mount that has customizations that you then have to go chase after, it gets to the point where it's kind of like what's happened with achievements, where achievements used to be something that people roughly did to be like, oh yeah, let me chase some achievements. I can get most of, if not all of the achievements if I try at it. And now there's so many achievements and they come out so quickly that it's just lost and none of them have any value to me. And I don't want that to happen for these customization mounts.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair statement. Thanks for the question, Goblin Graphics. If anybody else has any questions, go ahead and ask us in the Discord. Happy to answer them on stream or in the Discord sometimes. We get wild. We keep things loose in there. Manny, I think that's it. I think we did it. I think we're show done.
Yeah. It was a short show today. We didn't have Lex, but it was also short on news. If you guys again have any topics you want us to talk about, let us know. But until next time, guys, may all your hits be crits.